Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has ordered the suspension of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta, from office with immediate effect. The president further directs the executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to conduct a thorough investigation into all aspects of the financial transactions involving the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, as well as one or more agencies thereunder. The suspended minister is hereby directed to hand over to the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, and she is further directed by the president to fully cooperate with the investigating authorities as they conduct their investigation. And to talk about this, I've been joined live on the news by Katch, Ononuju, a political analyst. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here with you.
Okay, Katch, given the allegations against the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, do you believe that corruption, is and even embezzlements are pervasive in the Nigerian government?
Well, it's pervasive. What you're still doing is really not about Minister Betta. I think Betta was just the door you open to really go into the house of corruption as was built over the past 5 years by the minister whose invitation caused all this. There is a focus on Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. A lot of us were crying about the way Sadiya Farouk was running the ministry. And now we've gone in and we've seen angels between Sadiya Farouk and a lady. You have between two of them up to 80 billion. The issue of 585 million is just a distraction, even though that is the window that leads us into this. The storm is about what Sadiya Farouk has done. It's not about Betta. Betta is a window into the big house that you open now, because when Sadiya Farouk was asked to come last week, she didn't come. And then we now saw the other one about the lady close to another 40 billion. And as those things were being done, you now saw those who were on the other side of the divide is that ministry started bringing out a lot of things on Betta. And then we now saw the more they did that, the more people said, for Tinubu to really have the moral courage to go after Farouk Shadiya, he has to do something about the Betta. And he has done it. Suspended her, and now asked the EFCC to further invite Sadiya Farouk today. Sadiya Farouk arrived at the EFCC, and of course, the other lady, and in between two of them, we've only seen just about 80 billion. 80 billion. We've not gone far. There is a lot of stench in that ministry.
But Mr. Ononuju, yes, apologies to butt in there. Mr. Ononuju, is this case of the minister indicative of larger problems within the government, or is it just an isolated incident?
It is not an isolated incident. It is part of the larger problem. When Farouk Shadiya was doing the dishing, a lot of people couldn't say anybody in their village got 10 cents. When Bola Tinubu became president, he said, look, we want accounting. You cannot say there is no account. Show us the accounting. First, the states where you say they are going to, it won't be. It will now be a national program. So where are the receipts? What did you do? And as the investigation started going in, don't forget, this is just Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Nobody could question her because of our same relationship with President Buhari. Now we are seeing there is more. You are just seeing the tip of the iceberg. So that's why I say, don't be distracted with Betta. Betta is just a small curtain in a big house. And we've gotten into the house. Tinubu cannot get into this house without the moral courage to make the instructions he made today about Betta. The real problem is the massive elephant in the room, Sadiya Farouk, and the others inside. It's 5 years old that ministry was established. It was established after I made a public statement on television for which Vice President Osinbajo claimed that he would remove his immunity and sue me to court. I stood my ground, I called his bluff, and after he could not defend himself, everything that was under him was removed, and it was now used to establish a ministry. Now, that ministry was not supervised, as you were told by Buhari. He does not supervise anybody. Now we are seeing that for 5 years, a lot have gone in that ministry, and now that the current government is looking into that ministry, we are now seeing a fight back from people in the ministry, starting the current minister, but still the president has to go in, must go in to see what's going on for 5 years.
Katch.
And that's what you're having. So I believe these are just mourning on a very long recreation day. I do not have any doubt.
Okay, permit me to ask at this point, Katch. If I may just ask at this point, Katch, do you think the minister's suspension is really the silver bullet needed to help address the issue of corruption and embezzlement, or do you think more drastic steps need be taken?
A lot has to be done by Tinubu himself. There is a lot of widespread corruption. Look at his budget. The budget was simply a protocol for corruption. So it is not about Betta. Don't be deceived. So the Betta suspension is just, a smoke screen. No. Let Tinubu show us he has the courage to ask the questions. I do not complain about asking Betta to shift. Betta is not the picture. Betta is not the room we're going to. Betta is not the house we need to interrogate. 5 years of this Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, and we're referring to her as Sadia Farouk Hoshmomi. Now we have been proven correct. Let us have that interrogation. If it takes suspending Betta for the president to go into that ministry and look into 5 years of unbridled corruption, let it be. Don't forget, as I said earlier, Betta is just a curtain on a window for us being led into a massive house of corruption.
Mr.
The
Ononuju,
Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs for 5 years.
I hear you, Mr. Ononuju. I hear you. Just to help us understand, what impact do you think corruption and embezzlement, have on the Nigerian economy and also on the lives of everyday people?
Corruption itself was thought about previously to be just stealing money. But Buhari came to show us different forms of corruption. He showed us nepotism, and it was the nepotism that made sure that nobody could talk in a ministry where you have everybody in it probably come from same religion or same hometown. That damaged Nigeria. That undermines society. The most violent form of corruption is nepotism, because that undermined us, destroyed us for the past 8 years. If Tinubu has to really fix this country, he must start to make those reversals. Only those reversals can make the poor to understand that they are part of this country. Graduates will go through university and nobody even will tell them to come get work. Why? Nepotism. A lot has gone on in this country. So yes, he's just looking at the financial figures. Why are we here? 585 million, which is nothing, compared to the billions stolen through the years of nepotism, through Buhari's own system of corruption. We must start now to beg Tinubu, don't stop. Don't you stop here. Continue where you're going to. That house where you're going to, we will clap for you, we will hail you, we will praise you if you can just find the courage to fight corruption. Don't
Mr. Ononuju, yes, just to follow up there. Yes, if I may just follow up there, with regards to tackling corruption. How effective do you think government effort has been so far when it comes to combating corruption and embezzlement?
So far, the government has not shown the political will to fight corruption. So suspending Betta, I understand why. But government has to be shown to be seen to be sincere. The government is not sincere. The budget was a budget of corruption, and I do not allow that. How can people be suffering? Look at how people suffered through the Christmas. But yet, You are giving yourself 20 billion, giving other people 20 billion. Everybody gets 20 billion to do renovation of houses, to build a house for people who are already living in luxury, to buy bulletproof cars for servants in a country where people are suffering. How can you borrow just to steal? No. Nigeria now is ranked second only to Afghanistan in the World Corruption Index, and this is not good for the country. So the government has to do more to be taken seriously in regards to a need to fight corruption. I still want to tell you, Betta Edu is not the thing we are looking for. No, Betta Edu is just an heir on our journey towards a very corrupt mansion. She is not the problem. Don't deceive us with this. Suspending her is good, but also put your eyes elsewhere. What about Nigerians who are currently, as I'm telling you, suffering in IDP camps? Tinubu should visit just. That is part of corruption. Running away from visiting IDP camps and running away from visiting just and those who are killed because you do not want to offend the promoters of genocide is also corruption. Let it be an inclusive country.
Okay, just
Let
one more question.
Everybody have a
one more
sense of
question for you, Mr. Ononuju. What's your reaction to people saying the president's suspension of the minister, Betta Edu, is merely playing to the gallery and scoring cheap political points?
That is exactly what I've been trying to tell you. Betta Edu is not the problem. Betta Edu is actually not even part of the tip of the iceberg. Betta Edu is just a page you open for you to look into the book. She's not part of the book. The book was written over 8 years ago under Buhari. Let us have Tinubu gain that muscle and the political will to interrogate the 8 years of unbridled stench stealing in our country. The kind of corruption that was left with our country by Buhari, according to Ribadu, actually bankrupted the country. Why would you not be able to interrogate a regime that stole the country into bankruptcy? You must do this. So, as you said, and I agree with you, and those who opine say, Betta Edu is just a small screen. She is not our problem. The problem is finding the courage to ask questions to Farouk Sadia and her other lady, who between the two of them now raked up more than 80 billion. If those two ladies could rake up 80 billion, good, and you suspend the one of 585 million, even though you've not yet finished the investigation, that for me, I will welcome it, but do more.
And on that note,
to make everybody believe that you can be trusted in fighting corruption.
Thank you so much for your expertise on the news. Katch Ononuju, a political analyst. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.